On. So today we're going to talk about Joe Smith. Joe Smith is a former NBA player who was shocked to find out that his wife, Keisha, started an OnlyFans account without his permission. So Joe Smith, who formerly played for the Golden State Warriors, Joe finds out, and the internet found out apparently, that his wife created this OnlyFans account without getting his permission. And she even screamed those powerful words, "My body, my choice." I'm going to talk to you guys about this because I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking about how money and love mix together. I wrote that years ago, and I'm going to break this down for you from a Dr. Boyce perspective. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
That I hit the wrong button. My apologies. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and give me a guess if you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Today, we're going to talk about this interesting topic that I saw online that I thought was worth discussing because it relates to money and relationships. And this has to do with former NBA player Joe Smith. Joe Smith was a great player. I believe he played for Maryland. And it turns out his wife, when they had some financial problems, she decided that she wanted to create an OnlyFans account. And not only did she create the OnlyFans account, but she didn't tell her husband about it. Now, is this real or is this some sort of internet skit? I have no idea. But you can certainly imagine how upset a man would be to find out after the fact that his wife has been running an OnlyFans account, and that's how she's been paying the bills. And so, I thought it would be an interesting topic to discuss because I love to talk about things that have to do with love and money. My PhD is in finance. My wife is a relationship therapist. She's actually seeing clients right now as we speak. And money comes up all the time in relationships. Money always pops up as a variable in love relationships. And I encourage you to really think deeply about how money can sort of impact the way you financially entangle and emotionally entangle with other people. A lot of people don't think about that. And then next thing you know, your wife has an OnlyFans and you didn't know about it. And then she says it's your fault because you didn't bring in enough bread. Anyway, so do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And you say Joe Smith ain't no NBA star. Joe Smith was an NBA star. You don't know basketball, man. If you knew basketball, man, you would know Joe Smith was a badass. He was an absolutely great player. Now, was he as good as Steph Curry? No, he was not. But Joe Smith was good. Golden State fans will tell you Joe Smith was a great contributor to that team back in the day. And I stand by it. I will debate anybody on this topic all day long. All right, so do me a favor. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me okay? Give me a quick yes if you can hear me. Also, what's up on TikTok? What's up on Instagram? My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And also I have a Telegram, drboycetelegram.com if you want to follow me on Telegram. So here I'm going to give you the situation. And then what I'm going to do is give you kind of a Dr. Boyce breakdown on this. I'm speaking as a Black man and as a person who has studied finance. My PhD is real. You can look it up on the internet. And I have spent a lot of time thinking about financial psychology. There's a lot of research actually that connects to topics like this. Believe it or not, you'd be stunned how money and love have been studied extensively. Also, you'd be surprised at how money affects the brain. Money affects the brain in the same region of the brain as cocaine. Did y'all know that? They're literally the same high you get from a drug is similar to the high you get from money. The same high you get from eating your favorite food is similar to the high you get from money. The same high you get from sex is similar to the high you get from money. So that good orgasm is a lot like money in the sense that when you have money, you have this high that comes, and eventually the high wears off and it becomes an addiction. An addiction is when you don't get high anymore. But you need the drug in order to maintain your normality. And then there is the drop off that occurs when the drug is being taken away. So there is the withdrawal effect that happens. This is when you in our Black financial therapy therapy department in the Black Business School, we discuss these things a lot. A lot of you experience that maybe if you lose your job and suddenly your income goes from $5,000 and $6,000 a month to zero. Well, that sick feeling in your stomach and in your chest, that's your withdrawal. That's kind of like your drug being taken away. So just understand that money operates a lot like a drug. And so when I saw this story with Joe Smith, I didn't want to talk about it from a gossipy standpoint. There's enough gossip blogs out there. There's enough people that'll talk about the juicy side of it all. I'm here to talk about the thought provoking side of it and what we can actually learn from situations like this. Now, is this real or not? I don't know. I don't know if it was a skit or not. I mean, you have to give them credit. I mean, if this was their goal, if their goal was to promote her OnlyFans account, I think they did a pretty good job. I think that if their goal, and it is quite possible that their goal could be to their goal could be like, look, we're going to create a fake controversy so we can get people to go and follow my wife on OnlyFans. I think that's a little weird, perhaps a little sick almost. It's not my style, but it's possible, right? So give me a guess if you understand that. Like, this could be marketing. I think Will and Jada might have been doing a little bit of marketing with their controversy too, because one thing that people have learned about the internet is that it really doesn't matter if people like you or hate you as long as they're paying attention to you, because attention has become a very valuable commodity in this online world. Now, another artifact of the online world is that you have the OnlyFans phenomenon, which is really a newer, more efficient form of prostitution. That's what it is. It's a more efficient form. It's safer. It's more lucrative because you have the power of digital distribution, right? So instead of you serving one man at a time, you can serve 100,000 men, and you never have to be around them. They don't touch you. You don't touch them. It's pretty safe, and you're just kind of playing with their heads, and they're all paying you $20, $10 a month. Next thing you know, you got your own version of Netflix, like Coochie Flix, right? So you basically are making your money on a broad scale because you've been able to use technology to create a safe and efficient way to basically kind of do what hookers have always done. No disrespect if you're a hooker. I mean, but that's what it is, right? You're giving people getting their thrills by looking at you do all kinds of stuff in your bedroom. I'm not here to judge. That's what it is. That's life. And I can't even talk because I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of guys, when we were in college and we didn't have no money, if somebody told me I could just get on the internet and show my good stuff for a couple, make it $20,000 a month, $100,000 a month, that sounded a whole lot more. That would probably have been a lot more tempting than like going to work at Taco Bell, because that's what I did back then. I worked at Taco Bell and then I worked at Hardee's. I would have probably, I would have considered it. I would have thought about it. Not that I do it now though. So let's not even no. So the Dr. Boy's OnlyFans is not coming out anytime soon. But here's the thing. So when you talk about this whole thing, now again, it might have been a skit. I don't know if it's real or not, but I think it's a real conversation. Here's the thing about this. Even though it may have not have been, maybe even though it may have been a skit, one thing that is consistently true is that you have lots of athletes who make lots of money, and because there is a bad economic culture in your community, right? I think I saw somebody who was a trucking guru, and she was talking about how she threw up $100,000 in the strip club, and I said, what is impressive about you're supposed to be a guru. You're supposed to be this brilliant lady, but you went to the strip club and spent $100,000. There's nothing intelligent about that. That's very low IQ. But still, you have this culture that encourages financial irresponsibility, right? So a lot of athletes, a lot of rappers, a lot of NBA, NFL players, they get a whole lot of money, and then instead of going to their community, creating jobs, building low cost housing for single moms, or doing productive things like that, developing businesses that can create 100,000 jobs, they go to the strip club and they might be feeding strippers, but nobody else. And in this culture, what this does is it drains a lot of wealth. There are a lot of former athletes who made 5, 10, $20 million a year who eventually go broke. And then what happens is that their financial addictions start showing themselves, because after you've been in the NBA and you've got, babies' mamas to pay on every single month, you've got all these fake employees around you, all these people in your entourage that you're taking care of. You've got 20 cars in your garage, and you got all these fixed expenses, and then suddenly your income ends up dropping. You end up in a really tough situation. Now, again, I don't know if the Joe Smith thing was a skit or not. I don't care. What I'm saying is that y'all know, give me a guess if you understand that it doesn't matter that it was a skit. Give me a guess if you understand that this happens all the time. Give me a guess if you can imagine something like this happening in real life. Because the other thing you got to think about too is not just that culture. again, you make $18 million, 20 million, 40 million, whatever amount of money that Joe Smith made, because he was a good player. He wasn't Steph Curry, but he was a good enough player that he was signing those big fat contracts back when he was playing for the Golden State Warriors. When you make that kind of money, that type of money is supposed to take care of you for the rest of your life. That's supposed to last forever, right? So when that money runs out, you're not just in a position where people are going to ask you like, well, what happened? What did you do? But also you're in a position where you're very vulnerable, because understand that when you are the man and you're making all this money, you're attracting lots of people who want to be around you because of how much money you have, right? You're attracting lots of women who wouldn't even deal with your broke ass back when you was living in the projects with your mama, right? You're dealing with a lot of people, little white people and women and etc., who wouldn't have nothing to do with you if it wasn't for that bread in your bank account, right? So all these people are around you because you have money. And so suddenly you transform on them. Suddenly you go from being the guy who has everything to the guy who has nothing. Well, unfortunately, that's going to create a lot of cold, harsh realities. In many cases, you become like Cinderella and you turn into a pumpkin at midnight, and don't nobody want to hang around you when you become a pumpkin. Not the people that loved you before, when they loved you for the money. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to talk about this because in a way where it's going to be, I guarantee it'll be different from any other space online. I think everybody wants to talk about the drama of it, or, oh man, his wife be disrespecting him. That ain't right. That's disrespectful. Or it's her right. It's her body, her choice. And we don't, whatever. I don't want to get into all that. You can get into the politics on your own and the gossip on your own. What I want to get into is the economics of it all and the financial psychology of it all. Okay. So I'm going to pull a couple points. My book is called Financial Lovemaking. I wrote a whole book about topics similar to this. So feel free to go take a look. You can go to drboycebooks.com, or you can find the book on Amazon. It's out there. I wrote it when I was on the faculty at Syracuse University. So here's the first thing I want you to understand. Women, I learned from my research that women on average tend to be attracted to money the same way men are attracted to long hair and big booties. The same way you like a girl with long legs or nice boobs or whatever. A lot of women, not all women, but a lot of women are really intrigued by the idea of financial security. Even if they're not gold diggers, that doesn't make them gold diggers, right? Gold diggers are in a different category. Gold diggers are they're financially traumatized at a specific level that leads them to become fixated on money. So it's almost like the difference between a man with a healthy libido versus a man who's just a flat out pervert, right? Those are two different types of men. All men all men are attracted to a woman's sexuality. Most men are anyway. But there's a difference between the guy who who hopes that he's going to get some versus the guy who's only with you because he wants to get some. Give me a guess if you understand that difference and that nuance. Okay, and so my wife, who happens to be a relationship therapist, she's the head of our Black Financial Therapy department in the Black Business School. We created the first ever Black Financial Therapy department because there was none, and we realized that there are tremendous psychological barriers to building Black wealth. Those psychological barriers don't just affect Black wealth, it also affects Black families, it affects Black relationships, it affects the Black community in ways that people don't talk about. We need to talk about this more. So here's the deal. When you're talking about your financial wherewithal, right, and a man suddenly going from being a regular guy to having millions of dollars in the bank, it is going to change how people look at you. That's not going to change. This idea that a woman is going to simply want to be with you, that a woman who marries you as a millionaire is going to love you just as much if you are broke or in jail or whatever, that's nonsense. Like that 50 Cent song. Remember that 50 Cent song, 20 Questions, where he's like, would you love me if I was facing 25 years? Would you love me if I was riding the bus instead of a Bentley, and all this other stuff? And I thought that was an unfair song because because that would be like her saying, well, would you love me if I gained 400 pounds? Would you still love me if I burned my whole face off and became the ugliest woman in the room, right? And a lot of men wouldn't stay in that relationship, and that's just the honest to God truth. So the same way that you wouldn't love her if suddenly her big booty turned into a penis or whatever it is, right? She's not going to love you if suddenly you go from being a guy that can provide financial security to a guy who provides tremendous financial insecurity. So I would say this to any man out here who's looking to attract the right kind of woman and maintain stability in that relationship. You got to be financially responsible. You have to be financially responsible. You have to be financially responsible. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Everybody, I've made mistakes. We all make mistakes, but you have to have something in you in terms of how you show up every day that shows that you are trying to make sure that the family is good. And because, depending on the person, it's really going to change the dynamic of that situation. Their ability to look to you as a leader of that household is going to be heavily dependent upon whether or not you've proven yourself to be a reliable head of household. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you guys get what I'm saying? That literally, if you can't be consistent in some way. It doesn't mean you have to be rich. I'm not talking about being rich. I'm not talking about being a baller or a rapper or an athlete. I'm talking about just the guy who's getting up and working hard every day, the guy who's not tricking away his money, the guy who's not sitting around with, not working on anything, not building anything, not doesn't have a plan, isn't bringing home the bacon on some level. You're gonna you're gonna lose respect from not just from your wife but also from your kids, from anybody that's dependent on you. So that's one just clear point that I think guys got just have to understand. That it doesn't mean you have to be rich, but it does mean you have to be responsible. So when you see black men being told by music, pay attention now. I thank God for D1 and other artists that are now calling this nonsense out. When you have a whole music industry run by people who are not even black, who are telling young black men to take all their money and throw it away at the club or spend it on European cars or blow it on any big booty hole they meet they meet in the street, then that's really destroying the fabric and the foundation of the black family, because part of that fabric is driven by their ability to depend on the head of the household to be able to hold it down. Right. So I'm not saying Joe Smith could not do that. I'm just saying that this is a general rule. Now, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboystv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can find a copy at drboycebooks.com. Also, if you'd like for me to send you stock picks that I like, or our $5 a day investing plan, or a list of AI stocks that I like, just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. I'll send it to you right after we get done. Okay. All right. So speaking on Joe Smith and his wife Keisha and this whole issue with the OnlyFans, first thing I'll say is this. She said something that was really interesting in that video. She said, "You knew who I was when you met me." She said, "You knew who I was when you met me," and what that made me think about is my good buddy Willie D from the Ghetto Boys, who I think he was the one who said you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And so when she said, "You knew who I was when you met me," that says that, to me, that was her saying, look, you know how I was going to make my money before you met me. You knew that I had financial trauma and financial anxiety. These are things that we're studying here in the Black Business School right now. You knew I had financial trauma, financial anxiety. I was going to get my money however I had to get my money. And the only reason I wasn't out here getting my money and taking the lead is because I thought you had this. I thought you had my back. I thought you were going to deliver the money. When I realized you could not deliver the money, then I realized that I can't follow behind someone who's incapable of leading. I got to go take the lead. And what I really heard with that is that she's probably a person who has been financially traumatized. And give me a yes if you understand. A person who's been financially traumatized has a very hard time depending on somebody who is going to possibly recreate the same financial insecurity that they had when they were young. Give me a yes if you understand that when you've been financially traumatized, it's very hard for you to get behind somebody who can't provide financial security to protect you from the trauma that you went through as a kid. Trauma is one of the most undiagnosed, most impactful phenomena in the Black community, and I'm stunned that we don't talk enough about trauma, but I think it's because we haven't studied it. My wife is a certified trauma professional, and when I found out how much trauma affects your body, affects your mind, affects your choices, affects your relationships, I was blown away. Do you understand? I was stunned. I said, no wonder we so crazy. No wonder we do ghetto ass shit. No wonder we think that trap music is good music. No wonder we celebrate our own genocide. No wonder our families are falling apart. No wonder we out here acting a damn fool. Oh, it's trauma. Undiagnosed, unhealed trauma. That is your number one problem as a community. And I'm gonna scream it to the top of from every rooftop I can, that if you don't deal with that trauma, your whole shit is gonna be fucked up forever. Just understand that if you don't deal with your trauma, you're gonna keep on bumping into walls, crashing into bad people, making bad choices, taking penitentiary chances, ended up in stupid situations, ended up with a messed up life, abandoning your kids, throwing away your money, following the white man, dancing to trap music, and acting a damn fool and embarrassing yourself in front of the world. If you don't heal from your trauma, this will never go away. All you see, every time you see Black people acting a damn fool, Every time you watch Christian Rock and Blueface, as dysfunctional as they are, all you're seeing is trauma, 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 and traumatized people. They just they re-traumatize each other. Like I'm gonna out my trauma's gonna outdo your trauma, and then I'm gonna make sure you got more trauma than I have, and then we end up just traumatizing the hell out of each other. And here's the thing: you got to understand, you in an environment where everybody's trying to outdo each other in terms of how much we traumatize each other, you can't have true love in that environment. You will never have true love in a space of nothing but war. War does not breed love. That's like trying to create a swimming pool with fire. You can't. That's like creating a healing space with a virus. You can't do that. You can't create something positive when everybody's bringing something negative to the table. So if you don't deal with your trauma, your choices will continue to be as fucked up as your parents. And that's the reality. So when I look at what I saw with this thing with Joe Smith and his wife, I saw trauma. I saw financial trauma. That's where I believe that's where a lot of gold diggers come from. If you listen to most so-called gold digger women or women that are obsessed with money or whatever, that'll violate relationships to get money and all that, or sleep with men for money. A lot of times, if you ask them, well, what happened to you? What was your childhood like? Oh, well, my daddy abandoned me. We didn't have enough money. It was just me and my mom in the projects, and they were in so many terrible situations, traumatic situations where they had to do horrible things in order to get money. So you get older, you look good, and the world never taught you to really see all your value. So all you think is you think that all of your worth is locked up in how pretty you are. So you work it, you use it, right? So you are the prettiest thing in the room, and next thing you know, you attract some NBA star who's gonna help protect you from all that trauma you went through as a kid. So you get with that NBA star. Now you wouldn't be with his ass if he was broke. We know that he's 6'8", 200 something pounds. He's famous. He's rich. That's what you want to be next to. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. I mean, a lot of women want to be next to the king, just like a lot of men want to be next to the prettiest girl in the room. That's just the reality. But here's the thing. So when she wants to be next to him, he wants to be next to her. Why? Well, because he's like, well, I'm the man now. Look at all the women that want me, and I'm Joe Smith. I make, X millions of dollars a year, so I can have any woman I want. And what the mistake you're possibly making is that you're picking a woman without any significant amount of discernment. You're not thinking about the what ifs. You see, you got to understand, in the Game of Thrones, there was a part where the guy explained it to the queen. He said, you have to imagine every friend as your enemy, every enemy as your friend. You have to imagine every possibility of every single thing that can happen, everything that can go right, everything that can go wrong, if you want to properly enter into a situation. So when you pick a spouse, you have to imagine, like, okay, I know what this woman is like when she loves me. What would she be like if she hated me? Or I know this woman wants to marry me, but what would she be like if she was trying to divorce me? I know she loves me because, now that I'm rich and famous, but how would she deal with me if I wasn't rich and wasn't famous? And that's a tough equation. That requires a lot of thought. Most people don't think that way. I'm a professor, so I probably think deeper than most people. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm very proud of that. But I can just tell you that when I pick my wife, understand, I'm not Joe Smith. I'm not tall like him. I'm not as handsome as him, and I don't have as much money as him. But I did have some money, and I did have some recognition. And when you have even a little bit of money, all you got to do is make six figures, really. If you make six figures, and I was making seven figures at the time, you're going to attract a lot of women. And when I attracted women, I would dibble and dabble. I would go meet and date or whatever. But when I finally chose to lock my fate in with another woman, I didn't pick a woman who got to meet me when I became well known. I picked a woman who knew me from way back in the day. I did a LeBron James. LeBron didn't marry some lady who got to know him when he started playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He married the lady that loved him back when he was just a kid in high school, when he had potential, but he wasn't King James. Because plenty of women want to get next to King James. The problem is, are you going to stand by King James when he gets knocked off the throne, and how are you going to respond to that? So ultimately, and here's another piece too. I don't know if Joe Smith did this or not. I can't speak on his relationship, right? But what I will say is that when what they have a saying that says that a poor man will pretend to be rich in order to attract a woman. A rich man will pretend to be poor in order to test a woman. And I think that that's a very important point, that when you have money, you've got to test people a little bit. You've got to find out, like, okay, what's going to happen if this money all goes away? And one of the downsides of being wealthy and successful and powerful is that you get to a point where you understand, or you should understand, that a lot of people are only around you because they can get something from you. And you have to distinguish between the people that will be around you no matter what, and the people that are going to fall off if the money falls off. Right. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's life. I employ people. I pay bills for dozens. There's dozens of people I pay bills for in my life. I can't even name them all. I get asked for money all the time. I get asked for investing all the time. I get asked for resources all the time. And it's okay. I'm not mad about that. But I do know the difference between the people that are going to love me no matter what, and the ones who are just hanging out because they see me as the guy who can help them get to that next level. Right. And I think that it's important to understand, because you cannot play around with something as dangerous as love. Love is scary. Love is dangerous in the sense that a lot of shit can happen when you're married. If somebody's with you because you got the best penis in the world, what happens if suddenly your stuff don't work no more? Or if a man is with you because you're the prettiest thing in the room and that's all he can think about, what happens if you lose your looks? What happens when you get older and you ain't the prettiest girl in the room anymore? Do you really want to drive yourself crazy trying to be 60 years old trying to compete with a 25-year-old? You can't do it. You can't do it. You're going to have something that connects him to you that goes beyond how good you look or how good the sex is. And unfortunately, we don't have a world, I believe, where people have deep enough conversations. People are all into flash. Nobody talks about substance anymore. Nobody talks about substance. Substance is what sustains you. The flash will get you in the door. The flash will get you the attention. The flash will get you the fast money. The flash will get you the quick action. But it's the substance that'll sustain your shit long term. Just like in fire, the paper will burn the fire big, but it's going to go out fast. It's the wood that keeps the fire going for a long period of time. So you better show up with some wood, because you got a whole lot of paper ass Negroes out here that will fool you all day long. Seriously. So what I see here, when I look at this situation with Joe Smith, and I'm not making fun of him at all, I get it. I understand. How many of you would be pissed off if your wife started OnlyFans and didn't tell you? I know I would. If my wife did that, I'd be like, what the hell is this? What is this nonsense? Right? But here's the thing. When I married my wife, I knew that she was the person who would never create an OnlyFans, because I took the time to understand what kind of person she is. I know that my wife has lived her life with a certain level of integrity where I ain't got to worry about her popping up with an OnlyFans account or going out and doing something crazy like that. I don't have to think about that. Right? I didn't go find some lady who was a former stripper or hooker or whatever the hell, or groupie, and say, oh yeah, I'm going to take this groupie and make her into this really respectable housewife. No, I want to find out what your value system is. I want to find out who you are. Who are you when I'm not around? Who are you when I'm not bringing in the money? Who are you when things aren't going right for you? Right. And I think these are important things that you really want to think about when you're picking your relationships, because if you don't, you're going to end up confused. You'll end up very, very confused. And I really think that people, if you want my 2 cents on it, again, I hope it's okay if I go Uncle Boyce on this. This is just my 2 cents of advice. I get, because I have some, some immature men who make fun of me on the internet because I don't say the dumb shit that I hear so many other guys say. But whatever, you're 30, you ain't never been married or nothing, so you don't really know nothing, but you think you know everything. So just keep doing what you're doing. But I'm gonna just say this. A couple of rules that I apply in terms of deciding who I want to marry, who I want to really commit to, is number one, value yourself, right? And if you value yourself, then you don't feel like you need to get up next to nobody in order for you to be worthy. I did not see choosing my wife as something that made me into some sort of man that I could not be on my own. I was already an admirable man before I got with her. And I value myself enough that I didn't really just judge her based on how much I liked her. I evaluated her based on how much she liked me. Right. I would never, there are people out there who get into these relationships based on who they want to be with. And they don't spend 1 second thinking, well, how much does this person really want to be with me? How much does this person really admire me? How much does this person really want to, be in my life? How much are they willing to sacrifice to be with me? And I think that if we picked mates that way, there will be a lot less disappointment, because a person who really admires you is not gonna fuck you over, embarrass you, dump you or treat you like shit. They're just not. If a person's really honored to be with you, then that person is going to treat you with the utmost respect. And I think that that speaks to this idea that it's I think it's silly to get with somebody where you're kind of barely hanging on by a thread, or where you're chasing, so when I think about Joe Smith, again, I don't know anything about his wife, I don't know anything about him, but I'm really wondering if he truly believes to the core of his soul that he could have gotten that same woman if he didn't have all that money. Do you understand? And because here's the thing: if you suddenly say, "Well, look, I have money now, I can get this type of girl that I couldn't have got when I didn't have any money," well, that means you're not asking yourself that basic question, which is that did I am I what happens if I lose the money? What happens if I don't have money anymore? Well, that woman's going to be gone. That woman's going to walk away. And I think the same thing is true with women. I see women all the time. They will disrespect the man who admires them to chase after the man who does not even like you that much, or who will barely give you the time of day. And what happens is that creates a very thin margin of error for you. That means that if anything goes wrong, or you do something wrong, or you get on their nerves a little too much, or for men, if you can't show up with the same amount of money you had when you were playing for the Golden State Warriors, she's out of there. Or she's either gonna be out of there, or she's gonna start changing her behavior significantly. And so I would just say to you that people who don't get that, I feel bad for them. And I think, and I understand why people make those bad choices, because there's no good examples out there. There's not a lot of education on what it takes to build a good family. There's not a lot of training for black people on what it means to pick a good wife. That's why you got so many men out here bitching about women all the time, because they've never learned what a quality woman looks like. That's why you got women who are angry at men. Well, because for a lot of them, their daddies were not even sturdy, reliable men. So they have a big issue with men, because every man they meet takes them back to the trauma they experienced with their daddy. There's that word trauma again. Trauma is undiagnosed. Trauma is undiscussed. Trauma is not a factor in our conversations on a regular basis. And as a result, it just keeps popping itself up over and over and over again. And we keep making the same mistakes repeatedly. So in general, I will say this, to summarize with this whole thing with Joe Smith and his wife and the OnlyFans thing. I don't think the OnlyFans thing is ever going to go away. I think it creates a whole new dynamic in terms of us understanding, how we navigate the world. Would I marry a woman who had an OnlyFans account? Probably not, mainly because I kind of see like your good stuff. It's kind of sacred, right? That's one of the benefits of being married to you. So the idea of you feeling like you can get the reliability that out of me that a husband would provide, but yet you're giving me something that is basically a $10 commodity to everybody else, that's not going to entice me enough to want to marry you. But however, I can also say though that there are some people who just don't care. And there are some people who would say, yeah, we're connected on other levels, right? And this is another thing too. I think that when you focus too much on just the sexual and physical side of a relationship, I think you're missing 70-80% of what a relationship is all about. It's and I notice that a lot when I see women competing based on sex, like they're trying to give a man the best sex in the world, and they think that that's what's going to make him remember you. That's hard to do. In economics, we call that a commodity. When you compete based on something that's been commodified, where meaning that you can find it anywhere, it's available everywhere, it's much, much harder to compete. It becomes a race to the bottom. Like literally all you're doing is you keep lowering your price in order to compete with somebody else who lowered their price. And then before you know it, everything's being given away for free. And that's why, having sex with a woman doesn't have a lot of value for some men, because the hoes just flooded the market. They flooded the market. They just said, okay, I'm gonna keep offering my stuff at a cheaper level than the other lady. And then next thing you know, everybody's competing on this commodity that's readily available. But smart people, what they do in economics is you say, I don't want to be a commodity anymore. I want to be unique. So I'm going to take what I offer and I'm going to move it over into this other space where I have less competition. Or in another term in economics they use is you go from a red ocean to a blue ocean. A red ocean is where there's so many sharks that are already eating that the water's red, and you go to a blue ocean where there's not as much competition. So effectively, what I have observed, and this is really for anybody that really wants to listen. You don't have to listen to me. I mean, a lot of people don't want to listen to me, and I get it. It's okay. You don't have to listen. But if you want to hear this, here's what I'll share with you. The people that I've noticed who, when you talk about a man who has a lot of options, the woman he remembers is typically remembered by him for reasons that they'll go far deeper than sex. When you have connected with him spiritually and psychologically and emotionally, that puts you in a special place where you don't have any competition. That's what a wife is. A wife is a unique person that has wired into this man in all the other ways that don't involve his penis or his stomach or whatever those other stereotypical ways are. She could still wire into that, but she's not having to compete with the hoes because she's in a different category. And that's why she gets a different kind of response from him. Like my wife, I thought my wife was beautiful. My wife is very sexy to me, hottest thing I ever saw. But I've seen hot women before. I've attracted beautiful women before. They're kind of all over the place. Black women are gorgeous. I've seen lots of pretty black women. But when I was deciding which one do I want to make myself vulnerable to and make into my spouse, well, that was a whole different kind of competition. That was a whole different layer and level of thought that that you can't succeed in that space by just offering me the same thing that the last 10 women offered. You have to do something a little bit different, and so I would just say that's my 2 cents for any woman that really wants to be a wife, is understand that men are more complicated than our penises. I think that's something that and I think your father should have told you that. If you had a father in the house, he would have shown you that. You would see, like, I grew up watching how my father admired my mother and how my father didn't care what my mother looked like. He wasn't thinking about the sex all the time. My parents are in their 70s now. All the sex stuff is kind of in the past, but he's still incredibly devoted to that woman. And it ain't got nothing to do with just, like what they did in the bedroom, so I encourage everybody to kind of think about that. If you haven't, then there you go. If you don't want to hear it, that's okay too. But if it helps you, then I hope that you can apply it in a way that benefits you. All right, guys, I'm about to get out of here. My wife just came in, so we're going to go hang out a little bit. And so God bless you. Have a good night, everybody. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. My TikTok is just Boyce Watkins. Be careful with the fake accounts. There are tons of them, and they will ask you for money. So do not give these people money if they come into your DMs. I am not going to be sliding into your DMs. The only DM I slide into is the DM owned by my wife. I'm gonna go slide in her DM in a minute right now. So have a good night, everybody. Hit the thumbs up button, and also my website is boycewatkins.com. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.